From Beyond Marketing, it's the 20-Minute Call, a podcast about the dreamers, boundary pushers, rebels, and champions of the skydiving industry. Each episode is a narrative journey highlighted by the highs, lows, and luck that the skydiving industry delivers, as told by the most influential people within the sport. If you've ever dreamed of becoming a skydiver, perhaps opening a drop zone, or becoming the next world champion, check out the 20-Minute Call hosted by me, James LeBarry. My first guest is like no other person I've ever met due to his incredible enthusiasm, love for the sport, and its people. Kamuran, Sonic Bayrasli, is the man behind the famous Ranch Pro Shop, Bye Baby Bye. Since making his first jump at a small DZ in New Jersey in 1992, Sonic has accrued more than 7,000 jumps, become a master rigger with more than 3,000 reserves packed and more than 150 saves. Sonic is also a former AFF instructor and at one point was even a container manufacturer building the Baser, which had a main and reserve canopy that could be used for both base jumping and skydiving. Sonic, welcome to the 20-Minute Call.
What's up, James? How you doing, buddy?
I am good, man. Thank you for joining me on the first ever 20-Minute Call podcast. You are our very first guest.
Oh, I'm so honored. No way.
So, yeah, man. I'm stoked to have you. You're one of the good people of skydiving, and I definitely wanted to chat with you. So thanks for joining me.
I appreciate you.
Yeah, man. That goes two ways.
Yeah.
Two ways. So let's talk about you.
Oh, I love talking about me.
Tell us about your background. You know, I feel like we know Sonic, the guy that was born at the ranch. I don't know anything about like Sonic, the person before you got into skydiving. So tell us about your background. Where'd you grow up?
Oh, man. So I'm originally from North Jersey, Union County, little town called Springfield. My father, I have unique parents. Father came here when he was a young teenager. He's Turkish and Muslim. And my mother was a first-generation born Polish-Russian Jew. So a unique combination there. So Jersey Jew, baby. Or people would say a Jersey jerk, a Jewish Turk, you know? No. So just me and my older brother, Levent, growing up. Pretty typical upbringing. I honestly played a lot of athletics and stuff. One of those kids that played whatever seasonal sport, but definitely mostly focused on soccer. And then I did some wrestling in high school.
So wait a minute. So sorry to interrupt, but your parents, you say they were first generation immigrants to the U.S. Is that right?
My mother was born here. Her parents came here.
Okay.
But my father came here, when he was a teenager.
So what was your household like? Pretty strict or?
No, not strict at all. They were pretty fun-loving parents. My father, this big Turkish guy, definitely ruled the house, I was funny. Some young Turkish jumpers started at the ranch. I was telling them a story when me and my brother were little kids, and my father Yaya, would get mad at us. He'd start yelling at us in Turkish, and when you're young, it's just like a devil tongue. And I can't even start saying the words because all the Turks would be like, "Holy shit!" He just started cursing on this podcast. But anyway, and we'd be so scared of him. It was hilarious. But no, my father's awesome. We love him. And my mom. She of her family was, she had an older brother, a twin, and an older sister, and she actually is the only one of the females in the family that went to college. So sort of a big deal, and graduated college, and that was a big deal for her. But they split up when I was probably like 11, maybe 12, 13. My brother's 2 years older than me, and we mostly lived with our father and my mother on the weekends. Honestly, pretty normal upbringing otherwise. And and then just as far as the skydiving goes, the way, as told the story many a times, me and my brother Levent, it was a Sunday, we're at a sports bar, watching football, and halftime special was the ESPN thing about the 200-way world record down in Myrtle Beach in '92, and we're in our young 20s, and fuck yeah, man, let's go skydiving. And he called me that week, and $200 we're going Saturday, and I'm like, $200 we're doing what Saturday? He's like, skydiving. I found a place in the yellow pages. And Skydive East out in Pittstown, New Jersey, and we did those static lines, belly mounted reserve static line T10s from 3,000 feet, and I think we all remember our first skydive. And the one thing I talk about my first skydive is like, I was first to go out, right? So it's me, my brother, and his friend Mike, I think, that came. The three of us went, and I happened to be the first guy out. So I'm sitting by the door, and that door opens up, man. And I'm looking outside, like, are you fucking kidding me? And I can totally picture it in my head, and covering my fucking ripcord handle. And the guy's like, all right, go ahead, climb out. So the whole thought was climbing out and being like, I'm a fucking stunt man. I'm standing, I'm hanging onto the side of a fucking plane at 3,000 feet. Like, I'm a stunt dude, waiting for the thumbs up to be like, all right, go ahead, and then a good big arch. And again, being a big guy, I tell you what, man, pounding in, did I learn a PLF? Holy shit, man, like the shock that goes through your body when you hit it hard. But anyway, so after we did a couple of those, and then they're like, yeah, well, you can do AFF. We'll call you in a month or a couple months or whatever, and schedule you. And we were like, me and my brother were too jacked at that point. So he looked in the yellow pages again, but in New York, Skydive the Ranch, called up, and he's like, hey, we did this at this place, and they said something AFF, and they're like, yeah, 7 days a week. When do you want to come? And then we made our pilgrimage up to Skydive the Ranch. And
what year is this?
So this is 1993, 30 years ago. I literally, April 29th was the anniversary in 1993 of my 30th year jumping here at the ranch, with Carol Sternberg and Willie Bocher, who, may he rest in peace. Fuck cancer, man. But so Willie B did our first jump course, me and my brother by ourselves on the drop zone in the rain. No one's on the drop zone except us three idiots doing the first jump course in the rain, running out to the mock-up to do stuff out in the rain, getting totally soaked, and then eventually out of the Porter level one I did with Willie, and again, one of those jumps that you just sort of never forget. And so April 29th, 1993, my first jump here at Skydive the Ranch. Yeah.
Sonic, was there anything in your childhood that would make someone say, yeah, I'm not surprised he became a professional skydiver his whole life?
I don't know. I was pretty adventurous when I was young. I was not one of those, I pretty much did almost anything of any of this stuff. You go to the action parks and the jumps and the, jumping off shit or whatever. I was pretty down with most stuff. I think it is funny, though, that a lot of people from like high school that through the years, seeing it, and they're like, yeah, it makes sense or whatever. And it's just like, really? Because I think it was like one of those, like most kids, when you grow up, you think it's a trick, you go do a trick, you jump out. But again, that's back in the, grew up in the 80s, 70, born in 70. And so 80s, 90s, skydiving wasn't the sport that it is now, the way you see it on everything. It's on video games and commercials and blah, blah, blah. It's on, it's out there so much that I guess to, the kids nowadays, it's sort of almost just a normal thing. Like you'd see someone surfing or skiing, or, oh yeah, so do skydiving and the wingsuiting. And it's sort of normal for the young kids, I think, nowadays to see as much skydiving. And I never, as a kid, I was, no, I mean, here's a quick memory. How about this for a memory? I was in college, and again in North Jersey, Kane College, and me and a buddy, um, Tony Leone. I can't believe I remember that dude's name, a drummer. Anyway, we went to Action Park up in Vernon Valley. There's this place called Action Park, and it has water slides and all this crazy shit. It's actually famous for being insanely dangerous. This place, if you ever look it up, Action Park up in Vernon Valley, and they had a not a wind tunnel, but they had the old school open air DC3 prop or whatever the hell it was, and you wore the huge baggy suits like at Flyaway in Vegas that you see going on. And this is in college, so I was probably 180, maybe 190 pounds, so not huge or anything, but I was still too heavy to go. Bro, I was so pissed. I mean, and my buddy went and did it. And it was just like, oh man, I knew I could fucking do it better and I'd be able to be in there and do the flips like those dudes. And I so remember that moment in time, as funny as that sounds. One of those funny stories I never tell too many people, then I'm so happy I remembered it now. But man, as far as anything of skydiving related, shall we call it, that it was like, oh man, but yeah, it's I try to think back to even when my brother called me and we were going up that Saturday. Like, I don't remember. I can remember in the plane. I can remember the getting out, like I just explained. But I couldn't remember. I don't remember the drive there. I don't remember the drive back. Like, did we go get fucking hammered? For sure, we probably went right to a bar and got fucking hammered. And just I'm pretty positive that I don't remember any of it, but I could bet my life on that's what we did. But yeah, so I think I always found it unusual, right? The path that lays before you in life, and do you take the left turn, right turn? What do you do? And you get to where you eventually are, and knocking on wood, I'm fucking happy with my life. That's all I gotta say.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And could things always be better? Hell yeah. Could things be worse? Hell yeah. So
where do you get that perspective? You easily segued me into the next question of Sonic, man. You got so much positive energy, right?
Mhm.
And I've seen you at nationals, and one particular moment jumps out at me when we were all at Eloy a few years back, and you were on a team, and man, it was just full jokes. Everyone was having a great time, and you are. It feels like the energy and the passion that you bring. Where does that come from?
Oh man, probably my mother. Probably my mom. My dad. My dad is a total jokester, ball busting. He was the funny guy too, and a real ball buster. So I think a combination of all that, and you know, but and again, always in sports. Like again, I was a very competitive athletically. I'm a guy. I want to fucking win. You know what I mean? Um, but with skydiving, it's just so silly. And my introduction to competitive skydiving was here at the ranch in 1996. So I started here in '93, and by '96, I probably maybe had 200 jumps, not even. And the ranch was holding the U.S. Nationals. So me and a couple of my friends, um, Spanky, Jeff is Spanky, Steve Hall, Buddy Kenny, Leland Bendel being the video guy. And we were like, it's at the ranch. Like, how can you not compete? Like, we don't got to go nowhere. It's just we're going to come up that weekend and we're going to compete at the Nationals. And people are like, oh, but you guys going to train? We're like, yeah, we'll train, whatever. Who gives a shit? Like, if we suck, we suck. Like, it's about the fun. And um, we got some sweatshirts and we sewed grippers on them. We had some jeans and we sewed grippers on them. It's what we call at the ranch sort of dirt cheap. Hank Bungay, one of my instructors, the one that named me and my brother Sonic. The whole thing was dirt cheap and not wearing a silly costume, a jumpsuit. Just jeans and a sweatshirt. What else do you need? So that was the team uniform, and and I remember there had to be, almost 70 teams, the way there always is, and we were dead fucking last, like with a 2.1 average. And if you ask who had the greatest time, we were gold medalists. Fucking, we had the greatest time. And it was just, I mean, for me, the community of people to see that. For those of you that haven't done it, I encourage you to go to a USPA Nationals and compete. And don't think, oh man, but if we're not going to stink, we're not going to medal. Who gives a shit, man? Just go and compete and have fun and be with the community of people and see hundreds of others that have the passion and love for the sport that you've fallen in love with, and just have that camaraderie. It's nothing greater than those events, and I highly encourage it. And again, so that's what really bit the bug for me as far as like competing. And then ever since then, it's just having fun, man. Like, and then like, all right, we'll show them next year. And we trained, man. We trained, and we went to Paris Valley in 1997. And you know what? We weren't dead last. We beat the last place team by 1 point. And you know what? We still had the greatest fucking time. And we did 10-way, and we got the God Frog. And I can go on for stories and hours and about those days, which are just golden. I mean, everybody in your beginning years of those things happening within the sport, they're just the golden years of just incredible memories that shape you and then provide that path for you, like I was saying before. And a lot of that eventually shaped my path to like, I'm going to keep doing that. And then the team trained, and we kept doing it the next year. And then, some new team members in the next year. And the last year was 1999 when, I had that promotional job, that a sort of free schedule. And I took about 2 months of the year off training and traveling, skydiving, till my boss was like, you need to be back to 2 weeks. And I was like, no, I don't. And okay, here, I'm going to cut away. I'm doing it, man. I'm moving on to the DZ, to the tent. And that's what I did. And then that was, the after 99. So 2000, 99, 2000, we got all my ratings, that summer of 99, the summer of love. And, yep. Then there I was, stuck on the drop zone.
Before you got all your ratings, you mentioned that you were working for a promotional products company, like key rings and T-shirts and all.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine you to be an amazing salesman. Like,
listen, I think in any sales, it's just, you got to be a people person. I try to be a people person. You know what I mean? It's, you go and you see places, sometimes people are shitty, and it's just like, man, why be shitty? Or just be nice, smile, man. It's so much nicer being nice. You know what I mean? Nice as my wife's mother, she said she would say, is nice gets nice, So yeah. And just brought that into the jumping and the love for the sport. Yeah.
Yo, a quick break here to address the Drop Zone owners listening to the pod. If you're a DZO, then you know the insanity of taking your passion and making it your business. Why'd you do that? Running a DZ is hard. Between the stressors of liability, 30-day payment terms on fuel after 4 weeks of miserable weather, and angry staff who are convinced they've been skipped in the rotation, you need a tool that helps reduce your stress. Enter Burble Software.
All right.
Conceived by a DZO who's been in the trenches just like you, Burble is the most sophisticated manifest and booking software on the planet. Your life as a DZO is hard enough, so don't be that DZO who tries to save a few bucks using software that wasn't built for us. Burble, the must-have drop zone management software for the 182DZ to the multi-turbine monster. Burble. When we talk about the early days of your career at the ranch, like, it sounds so like such an exciting time, right? Like,
totally.
Free Fly is coming into its own. Canopy Piloting is sort of, it's almost like an experimentation of technique.
Yeah.
I feel like there's this incredible energy building out of Titusville, Florida, and the ranch, and certainly out at Paris. Like, it was it was exciting, and community was still such a big part. And I'm trying to get around my head, like, skydiving in the last 30 years, like, if you benchmark it today versus then, it's like, yeah, there's new stuff, but is that excitement there? Like, we don't have the bonfire, or am I being sort of like the old guy, get off my lawn? It's not as good as it used to be. Like, what's your take on it?
I think everything goes in waves. You have those glory years, and then they're not so great, and I don't even know what really causes that. Maybe the people within the sport, maybe the people driving the sport, or the events, or whatever. I think that happens at all drop zones. I mean, it definitely has happened at the ranch, where there were these glory years of the ranch where people lived on the drop zone from Friday through Sunday, and there was all these campsites to years of that not happen because it was discouraged to camp for some years, and some Saturday nights coming down from the shop and no one's around was like, man, this is sad. I've heard of other drop zones where they're like, oh, last load's done, be out in 15 minutes, we're locking up. And it's like, what? Like, locking up, go home? Like, what is that? No, you hang out, and you learn real shit at the bonfire, having a few beers with the experienced people, or just, again, that camaraderie. I mean, again, I don't know of many other sports that that create the camaraderie that this sport does, right? Because every time we get in that plane, as stupid as it sounds, but it's true, one of us could be dead or whatever, and we got to look out for one another, and still have fun and this and that. We're doing some crazy ass shit, throwing ourselves at the earth, and and then and share those moments afterwards at the end of the day is where you really get that bonding, and you create those lifelong friends. And I think in anything in life, that's a special part when you're able to do that, right?
What's exciting to you today of what's going on in the sport?
In the sport? Oh, man. Well, for selfish reasons, I've always been a four-way guy. So, and it's still the primary thing, four-way, eight-way. There's a lot of the disciplines that I enjoy watching, the free flying, freestyle. What those guys do is just nuts. And with today's tunnel training, these guys are just doing mystical things in free fall. But again, four-way, to me, I mean, it's still the benchmark. I mean, I think it still shows it by the numbers for the outdoor and indoor. And as you were saying earlier, after I was doing Sonic Force four-way, eventually started shooting video when I became full-time skydiver, and because I love sport, I love filming four-way, and I filmed a bunch of teams at nationals. And 2015, the young team at the ranch needed a video guy, and I started filming them. And then I got back into it, filming ranch second generation, my people, Christopher Coleman, Joey Marshall, Michelle Caramon, Bren Richards. A lot of people within the sport know that we eventually won advanced class and then went open and did real well. And, after the last year of the team in 2019, we had Gina Billings on the team. After Bren won her gold, she stepped down, and then Gina came in 2 years later. And anyway, the girls, Michelle and Gina, went to that team XP8, won a few world championships. Christopher was on that 8-way team in Russia as well. I didn't forget you, Chris. And then, this past year in October, Joey and Christopher with Airspeed winning 4-way, and the girls XPG4, which is 3 of my old teammates. They took third. So proud of them. Recently in the tunnel, the boys won. The boys are in full domination right now. Right now, they are what Hayabusa was 8 years ago or more. We're just untouchable. Like, these guys, no one's going to come near this team. Yes, I'm biased, but the greatest airspeed team, and no disrespect to the people before them. I'm all great friends with them, but my boys in this team, Niklas and Mikhail, they're just the greatest 4-way team ever, and I think they're going to prove it in these next year or two, and show some incredible numbers. And the girls they're killing it. They took second at the tunnel meet. So I don't know how I got into the 4-way thing, but I just love 4-way. That's what excites me. That's what you asked. And waking up early to watch the world meet indoor in Slovakia, whatever in the morning to watch them. I love watching them. They are so incredibly talented. And I'm so excited for all their futures. So that excites me, and I have to give out to Kurt Gable and NSL, Sky League, to actually cover this stuff. You know what I mean? Because there's the handful, and I literally mean there's a handful. Because when you're watching that shit live, and you're like, "Oh, there's 12 of us," but we're all diehards. I just love watching it. I think it's incredible what they're doing. But then old school in me is the swooping game, and I haven't been or seen a competition in a long time. But that was where it really got to me way back when I was starting. And it all started back at the 1996 Nationals at the ranch. If you know the quick story, So at the 1996 Nationals at the ranch, it was shitty weather at one point, so no one could jump. The only people that could jump were non-competitors. It was low ceiling, so they're doing hop and pops. And at the ranch, we had the pond, and people would swoop the pond. So all the competing people were on the ground watching. So hundreds of people watching the dozen or plus people that could go do hop and pops swoop the pond. And then Drew Lipinski and Leland Bendel were like, man, we need to just do that. And then a couple weeks later, there was a local 9 guys. They threw $20 in, got some judges, 3 rounds of swooping the pond, and Phil Contorno, first ranch pond swoop winner. He is a legend. And then that's how pond swooping grew to what me and Donna organized in the years of the 2000, 99, 2000, 2001, the largest events ever, giving out the most amount of money at the ranch.
How did you guys get money to give out? Because that's still not happening.
So the last 2 years we gave out over $20,000. So basically the way we did it was we tacked on a large registration fee, and it was like, hey, the jumps cost this. We were giving them like a T-shirt, a towel, a banquet dinner, like all these things, right? And like, okay, that cost like $200 or whatever the hell it was. We're like, okay, we're tacking on another $150, and that money is going strictly to the pot, and that's going to be divided this way. We had about 70 competitors. And then we got all the sponsors, all the canopy sponsors, container sponsors, helmet sponsors, donate a canopy, a helmet, 2 helmets, whatever it was. And those years we were doing these auctions. So like the Friday before the comp or Thursday before the comp, hey, we're having an auction for these items. And then we would auction them off. Velocity, and this is back, 20 something years ago, it was like 1,600 retail, like, $1,400 Velocity, PD Velocity, whatever. And all that money went into the cash purse. And that's how we raised $20,000. And we had every penny to show for it. And that's what really grew. I mean, so 96 was it was a local thing. We did it again, total local thing in 1997. But me and Leland and Drew, we took that video and we showed this guy, JC Coat Closure. JC is like, all right, I'll come out to that next year. You give out money? And we're like, yeah, man, we give out money, and we were, I think that second year, instead of $180, they gave out like $500. And again, Leland Bendel and Drew Lipinski mostly organizing. And I started helping them in 98, and JC came out and showed us how to swoop a pond. I will still never forget when AKA Moses split the pond in half, one end to the other, and everybody in New York has got the jaw drop, bro. We're all like, holy shit, man. Like, never seen swooping like it, and I think JC, he won like $700. Like, and this is, again, this is 98 or whatever, when no money was being given out. And he went back and told all his friends, and then they showed up the following year, and it just kept growing and growing. And part of that also was we had a good buddy, Dean Winkler, at the ranch, that worked at a studio place to do videos and stuff. And Leland got some time in a professional studio to make these videos. And I went and helped them a bunch of years and creating these videos that back then, if you went to any big DZ, there was a copy of this swoop video in the collection with all the dust next to Chronicles and whatever other freaking badass video there was at the time. And that blew up swooping. And then it grew into those years where Drew moved to Australia after winning it in '99, I think. And Leland went on the mothership, as we say, and he knows what we're talking about. And me and Donna pretty much took it from there and built it to what it was, and gave out more money than anything at the time. I remember there's so many funny things. Again, I could just talk for hours, by the way, just so you know that. But some things that I'll never forget. I remember one time, Luigi Canny, right? I forgot what he placed. He got a medal, and he's like, Sonic, this is the first medal I ever got. I'm like, what are you talking about? You won a whole bunch of stuff. It's like, yeah, but this is the first time I got a medal. Like, we gave out medals, like, you know what I mean? And then the other one was Craig Girard, Sarge. Fucking Craig Girard, I'll never forget it. He's like, son, this is the first time I ever won money skydiving. And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, they don't give out money at nationals or world meets. Dude, this is the first time that I've ever individually won money for skydiving. Like, you know, I think maybe the team would get stuff for maybe the America's Cup. I forgot maybe the team, but individually, and I was just like, Jesus Christ, man, like that's cool as shit, right? That guys like this are saying some things about, what we created there. Honestly, from there, it just, transformed into what it is now. That was Jimmy Slayton and Lyle that created what is now known as Canopy Piloting, and took it to the IPC, FAI, and created the events. What they've created is absolutely incredible. It's awesome and all that. It ain't my cup of tea. It ain't my cup of tea. I don't think it's swooping. I mean, it is. I get it. Like and what these guys do is incredible. And they're down to the thousandths of a second. I think that's the other thing for me is back then we didn't have these laser systems. So it was like videoed, and then they would go back and count the frames of video to know your time and if you missed the gate or not. And they also started a stupid, thing. You couldn't wear weight. Like if you're fat like me, I couldn't wear weight. I'm like, but I want to wear weight. I want to jump a bigger canopy and wear weight. They're like, no, you just jump a smaller canopy for the higher wing loading. I'm like, I don't want to jump a smaller canopy. And it sort of really ruined my taste for swooping and became very boring. And I don't mean to diss on any of these guys. So again, what they do, these guys are some badass mambo jambos. But I think the skill of swooping a pond, contact with the pond, doing stuff, carving it in a lane, hitting targets, and then the freestyle aspect of it. This is showing some talent. And the freestyle, for that's worth, that's gone to the biggest of, incredible. What these guys do is insane. The tricks that they do is insane. So listen, I'm not poo-pooing swooping. It's definitely gone and done some great things. And the freestyle, like me and Lyle, and we talk about bringing it to the people in front of thousands of people, and that's what they finally have done. And so it is honestly the only thing I think in this sport that will become that spectator friendly, and they've been working on that for years, and maybe it'll happen one day.
Sounds like we need to put together a 2023 version of a money meet. Let's bring the money back.
It's hard to sustain that. You can't keep asking from the manufacturers year after year like that, and it's just tough. And the dreams of getting a big sponsor to do that, it's like, man, we've all been hitting that crack pipe for years, dreaming that. You know what I mean? And it still hasn't happened.
So Sonic, you've been around for 30 years. You got some gray on the beard now. Who are your heroes in the sport? Who do you look up to?
Oh man, that's a great question, and I'm trying to think of my answer that I put in the profile in Parachutist. But for me, as funny as it sounds, I definitely remember guys like the Golden Knights, Arizona Airspeed. Like these guys were all of them full on heroes. Like, oh my God, to see what these guys did. JC Co-Closure, I fucking love that guy. Him and showing us what swooping, you know what I mean? And even and that's up front. I have to say my true inspiration is Rickster Powell, right? If you ever see those old videos of him swooping into the hangar and to land, like, that was OG shit. But to see JC, and then after JC, again, guys that I consider some of the greatest, Clint Clausen, just incredibly talented, and then my PD Flight 1 guys, all of them, JMO, come on, JMO. JMO came to the, this is how great Jay Moletsky is. He came down to the 98 pond swoop meet, maybe 97, shit, where we're like, who's this dude from Canada, with the phony ponytail, and being all rad and stuff, but damn, he's got some style and he's good, guys like him, and eventually, Jay ruled the Canopy Piloting world for years, and to talk about the PD flight guys like Shannon Pilcher, Ian Bobo are such. I say Shannon Pilcher is like my first friend from another drop zone, right? Because in the first years you're at your home DZ, and I met Shannon Pilcher. That's going back to the 1996 Nationals at the ranch, and the team he was. I think he might have been filming a team at the time. I forgot. And just hanging out. And he was stupid enough to be like, hey, man, if you ever come down to DeLand, look me up. You can stay at my place. So that February, me and my brother Levent went down. And he's like, hey, I'm starting a new team, DeLand Genesis. And we just got a house. We're just moving in. We don't have any furniture. And, me and my brother were like, do you have a floor? He's like, yeah. Good. Hey, you got a floor. We can lay down. We can sleep on the floor. And, I think it was up on 3rd Street. And as the joke is, I have to say this, if they ever listen to this, is we got there and they had nothing but a stereo. When I say you walked in, every room, there, nothing, zero, zilch, nothing, except in the main living room on the floor, plugged in, was a stereo. And then they had the CD cases, and like, oh, cool, let's see what you guys got. And it's like, the Old Testament, the New Testament. And we're like, oh, some holy rollers. Nice. Yeah. But, so those guys I've always looked up to, as far as, heroes back then for sure. Yeah.
It's funny too, as you mentioned, Ian Bobo, Shannon Pilcher, Hall of Famers now.
Yeah.
Built a business out of
swooping.
What was sort of, really, with Flight 1. And
that's another story. Sitting in DeLand, I forgot what it was. It's just after Flight 1 started. So this is probably maybe the Expo in 2010 or whatever. We're sitting at a picnic table and with Ian and Sandy, his wife, and we're all this and that. And they just have that new trailer put in DeLand where they're having the Flight 1 school. And it's just like, we were literally like, look where swooping's taken you guys or us or whatever. Like, look what it's created. And now what Flight 1 does, like, holy schmoly, right? This is like, holy cow. I mean, it's incredible what the sport has blossomed, even from Alan Metney and iFly, right? From the 99 Nationals and everybody stopping in Orlando to check out the new wind tunnel thing. And everyone's like, holy shit, that's awesome. Like, they need to have those everywhere. Yeah, swooping. It's amazing where a lot of my close friends that when I started, they started where they are now and what they're doing with some incredible stuff.
This podcast is sponsored by Beyond Marketing, the digital marketing agency for the skydiving industry. As avid podcast consumers ourselves, we're not fans of ads during a podcast, so we'll spare you the details about why we love building websites and helping businesses show up in Google search results. But just know this, we're passionate about the skydiving industry and how it markets itself. Look us up at dropzone.marketing. Again, that's dropzone.marketing. Sonic, you're a rare breed. You've actually made a living in the sport. That's super hard to do. Debt-free at that, if I'm allowed to say.
Yes.
What's your advice for anyone that wants to go, okay, skydiving is for me. I want to make, I'm cutting away. I'm going to do this for a living.
Yeah, that's, I'll never discourage anybody from doing it. I think ultimately, if you're driven enough, you'll find a way. You'll make a way. You know what I mean? the sayings of, love what you do what you love, you never work a day in your life. For sure, there's lots of truth to that. For truth, there, going to the drop zone every day was like, that's what I'm doing.
But what do you say about those that take their passion and make it their work? Like you're rare in that you don't seem to have burnt out. Like I've seen many DZOs
Yeah.
lose the passion, right?
Yeah. So when I was 1999 cutting away, I definitely reached out. And one of my conversations at the time, I'll never forget, Mike Michigan. Shout out to Mike Michigan. He's one of the guys that I called. He's sponsored the Sonic Force with suits. But I got to know Mike, and he's one of the guys I called. And I'll never forget. And he's like, because when I was leaving my job, it was like the opportunity for the gear store at that time was opening up at the ranch too. I was like, ooh, and so I said to Mike, I'm like, yeah, I'm looking. He's like, well, do you want to skydive or do you want to run a business? I'm like, I want to fucking skydive. He goes, then do not own a business. And I said, okay, and I got my tandem rating, got my AFF rating, shot video, and I skydived. And those couple of years doing the 5, 6, 7, and 8, almost 900 one year. I did my, most amount of jumps in a year, and you do those type of numbers, and you're skydiving. In the end of 01, so I actually started working for the previous gear store guy, Marcus Santebi, doing some rigging and some sales in the winter because he lived in the city. He wasn't coming up, so I'd go there in the winter and sit in the trailer and sell gear and whatever. And he was leaving at the end of 01, so 02, the opportunity went out to a couple different people. And for me, it was like I saw a lot of guys have been in the sport a long time doing the tandems and this and that. And I would say for sure the majority of them eventually do burn out doing that. And it's like, I don't know if I wanted to do that, And granted, there's plenty of guys that got 10, 15, 20,000 tandems and they still freaking love it. And they're not miserable bastards for sure. There's the rare few of those. To me, better security to maintain in the sport was the gear store to do the sales. And, again, I got my rigging ticket as well and making it work that way. And I was still doing tandem video on the weekend, some tandems, little AFF, very little the first couple of years, to the point where it got too busy that I had to stay in the shop on weekends. And listen, I had some years where, I didn't have a team to train with. And to walk down to the hangar to find someone to just go jump with was tough. I had some very tough years of not jumping a lot because I'd walk into the hangar and someone would need something and the business was priority and I'd run back upstairs or I'd be on the ground doing whatever, because that was the priority. And if I could sneak out and get a jump, and some of my friends didn't understand, like, I'm like, know what works best for me? Almost like a now call, because it's like a 10-minute call. Shit, I'll just run upstairs, grab my rig, and go. Even in the beginning years of the shop, I did so many hop and pops because I was so focused on swooping those beginning years because swooping was everything. It was easy enough for me to do a hop and pop during the week because I'd hear the call, 5-minute call. I'd be in the shop. I'd grab the rig. I'd lock the door. I'd meet the plane. I'd go to $4 grand. I'd swoop. I'd come down. From leaving the shop to back in was like maybe 15 minutes. Like, I was like, I could do that. And like, ooh. So I did a lot of that, Again, there were some years where it was hard for me to jump because I was needing to take care of all the customers and because they're priority. Because I'm there 7 days a week. They're here just the 2 days on the weekend and they want to skydive and got to keep them in the air, right? And just keep them happy. And so that was the focus. And then when the team started happening, I was happy, but that was tough, having friends help me shoot video and running into the shop in between loads to help my wife needing something. And it's a tough balance. Hey man, there were some years like, it's great to own your own business and it sucks to own your own business, and people that own their own business are sitting there like you just did, and you shook your head like, yep, it's the greatest thing. It's the worst thing. And, you have your struggles and you get through them.
I've met a lot of riggers that it seems like they're almost engineers and love, just sort of the engineering of it. Is that how your brain works? Like, I mean, Or is it more of a means to an end and you're real good at it? Like, how were you when you were coming in as a rigger?
Totally great question. So in high school, mechanical drawing, I loved drawing and designing and doing stuff. I went and got my BS in industrial design. So I've always had that mechanical engineering head of, like, I think a lot of us do, like, how the fuck does this string and webbing hold our shit ass together? Like, how does this, function and things? So I was always one of those guys to be interested in that sort of stuff. Honestly, because of the swooping the pond back prior to waterproof AADs, like, if you were going to compete, shit, gotta go to the rigger. Hey, pop out my Cypress. You know what I mean? When it's all over, pop it back in. Or screw it, I'm going to gamble. Fuck, I can't tell you how many cypresses I killed in the pond. Probably one for sure, probably two. To the point where, like, shit, this is costing me a lot of money. I better learn how to. I mean, how hard is it? It's folding fabric. And but we had a local guy that was teaching it at the time, Dan Smith, and he was doing rigging courses. And to me, for those of you that are thinking about getting into the sport full time, I feel you need to wear every hat possible. If you need to, I don't care what drop zone you're on, you need to wear every hat possible. AFF tandem, video, packer, whatever. When I went full time, it was like, okay, add it to the list of the things I need. If I'm going to do it, I better do it. And yeah, packing, hey, it's just folding fabric. It's really not that hard.
Do you even struggle to get a reserve when packing reserve these days? You've done it so many thousands of times.
It's very rarely will I need to replace a closing loop because it was too tight. Thank God I've learned my lessons through the years to not have to do that as much. But yeah, those beginning years, yeah, you learned a lot, of something outside your capabilities. Nowadays, I'm just pretty much doing mostly repacks, minor repairs. I'm not a full loft. We do relines and, again, basic repairs. I don't have any harness machines or anything, so I used to have use of some, but not anymore. So
you tell us who you look up to as skydivers. Who do you look up to that's a rigger?
So first, one guy that helped me that's still deep into the sport. He's the head guy over at Sunpath. I love him to death, and that's Tom Parker. I freaking love that guy. And he's just incredibly smart, and he knows everything to such detail. And he's a guy that on weekends, a Saturday or Sunday, if I needed something, I can call Tom Parker. You know what I mean? And I mean, he's awesome. He's absolutely awesome. But he mentored me in the very, very beginning here at the ranch because he spent some time here. And then, again, Dan Smith was my guy who taught our course here. And then I got my master's at DeWolf's. So I went and got my master's at DeWolf's. So, of course, Dave, and then everybody that teaches at that, course as well. There's so many guys from Rags to Mark Nadeau, and, there's a whole bunch of other guys. Honestly, the best way that I learned rigging, I encourage, stop going to Facebook with questions. Yeah, you're going to get great answers from guys like me and a lot of other guys that are know 10 times more than I do, for sure. But the best thing I tell young riggers, reach out to the manufacturer. Hear it from the manufacturer, right? That's where I always wanted to get my answers. And I guess maybe in the early 2000, 99 to 2000, 2002 of the store, no internet to go ask, thank God, and I was forced to call the loft and speak to the head rigger, and they would tell me their policy or how to get it done. And then the PIAs where, as great educational, man, those first beginning PIAs, I think 03 was our first one. Man, did I soak up that information. Oh man, those seminars, and then as the business grew, as me and Donna tell you, your marketing seminars and just all the other seminars, honestly, are what a great experience the symposium is. But for rigging, because that's what it was the rigging thing, that how it really started. It's just to go watch the top people from every manufacturer pack their rig and show you their little, tips and tricks and how to do stuff. That was great. So I encourage all the young ones out there, soak up as much knowledge as possible.
Yeah, Sonic, if you didn't get into skydiving, what do you think you'd be doing?
That's a great question. Oh man, I don't know. I have no idea, because the promotional business that I was in got destroyed by the internet. Like any person sitting right home can, if they want 1,000 pens with their name on it and logo, they go online and boom, they get it, and they can search 40 million people for best price, and that's not the way it was in the mid late 90s. So I don't think I'd be doing that. Would I be doing some type of sales? Maybe. It's so funny. I don't know, because again, I got my BS in industrial design engineering and stuff, but was working for sales and promotional stuff. So that didn't make any sense. So my whole college, years wasted. Not really. I used a lot of this stuff in skydiving, which is great. And you had mentioned it earlier, the baser, where I created the first ever TSO base container so you could practice out of, jumping out of a plane.
I think anybody that's listened to this podcast, hopefully more than a few, that's been around a minute, like when I hear the baser, all I can think about is the rap song that goes along with the baser, the acer, the baser.
Agent Lead. Yep, that's a jumper from Staten Island that was, learned here, and he was a rapper, and I was telling him I was making this company, and I remember him, it's like, hey, tell me all about it, and I just like, yeah, it does this and it does that, and I forgot where we went, and then he's like, hey, come down to the studio, and when I record it, and it was like, say what? A whole bunch of us went down to Staten Island to this recording studio, and I sat there in shock because he didn't tell us any of it. Like, I think he played the beat for me, and like that was it. And I was like, I don't get it, And then he just starts, and I think Donna takes credit for the first opening line of "Hey sir, is that a baser?" When and just he goes into it. I could wrap that for you right now.
Like to find that audio and have us close out the episode with it. I remember meeting Agent Led at Carolina Fest, I guess, however many years ago, 2009 or 10, whenever you came out with that. That dude was legit.
He was funny.
He was legit.
Yep.
You say the rap?
Hey sir, is that a bass, sir? You want to jump from a bridge in the plane with the same container? Well, check the action, the baser is here, and with the bass X, you can get some fresh new gear. But first of its kind, in case you ain't heard. Check the action, the baser is here, and with the chest mount, you don't need. See, I messed it all up. But oh my god, yeah, that's awesome. It was so funny, and I played it for so many people. And people would just, they just loved it because it was great. It was funny. And Miles Dasher helping me out with that, I won't forget MD, man. He that's a character. You saw him. How about that show? Let me tell you something. I mean, you should have broadcast your interview of him at the symposium, because that guy is full on show. And I tell people, and I tell you again, that is no act. That is no act.
I've never met anyone like him.
No act. That is full on him. And see, I failed when you asked me about the rap. He didn't fail when I put him on the spot to rap, huh?
And for those listening, we're referring to the PIA Symposium this past year, Reno, and I got to interview Miles D, and that guy was like, how do you even describe a fire hose of energy that is so sincere, like you just never met?
Yeah.
Another one of the great personalities of our sport, right?
Totally.
Sonic, I want to switch gears to maybe you and I are friends, so I'm aware that there is, there's some hurt in that you are not actually physically operating your store at the ranch, and you've been asked not to come and jump at the ranch, basically to be there. And I want to keep things high level, not get down into the weeds. But for all of us that know you or know of you, it's like you think the ranch, you think Sonic, right? Because you have been
I appreciate that.
the ambassador. You have been coming from Jerry Maguire. You have always had that ranch quan.
Yeah.
So, just
Oh,
keeping it on a
man.
high level, how are you processing this when so much of your skydiving identity has been tied to this place?
Yeah, as my wife says, we're always trying to find a new normal. So at the end of 2020, the worst year ever, just all of life happening and business, and we were asked to leave the drop zone, and we were lucky enough to find a place right in town. And like you said, you can ask anybody from coast to coast. I mean, all we've ever tried to do was just promote the ranch, support the ranch. As one of the SNTAs, I try to do my best of keeping everybody safe. Safe skydiving is that's everything to me. And I thought in my years of being an STA there, I did that a lot. But as the pro shop and everything that we did, just to make the place, where everybody wanted to come to. And at the end of 2020, again, we were asked to move, and thank God we found a place that's literally half a mile from the DZ. It's definitely different. As far as not going there, that's something that the owner. Really started last year. I don't want to gossip too much, but it's just one of those things that's his prerogative. That he just doesn't want us there. He says we're competitors, in the skydiving business, and it's sad. It's definitely sad for me because as you heard all these stories, this is a place where I went to 7 days a week for 18 or 20 business 20 something years almost, and but it's always like I always tell everybody, really it's really about the people, right?
Mm-hmm.
You could take all the same people and just put us in a different location, and it's all the same. So it's I love the area where we live. I love this part of New York. It's gorgeous. We love it here. But it's more about the people. And the change of move to the shop, it definitely has changed that as well. And like again, we're just trying to find a new normal, and lots of things in business affect you. And that's the other thing, is that because of 2020, just that and moving off, like it was just like two kicks in the nuts, like what I mean. I tell you what, just as far a business of skydiving, it's tough. A lot of these manufacturers are still having fabric supply issues where you can't get canopies. How can I sell gear if I can't sell a canopy because they don't have them? You know what I mean? And maybe in years past, you can go to stock lists of almost any brand in every size of multiple colors and always had reserves in stock. And now they don't. So it's like, how can you sell gear? So that's just tough in itself, let alone being off the drop zone. Again, as far as business wise, we used to have just the tandem traffic. We don't get that anymore. So, that's a little, ding to the, to the income. But again, listen, things could be way worse. And we're just thankful for what we still have and what we're still doing. And we're still trucking along and, still selling equipment and servicing customers to the best that we can. And that's always going to be our goal, is those things. As I learned at a marketing seminar at one of those symposiums, was to have core values, and we listed those. And I remember I came back from that seminar. Do you remember who did that seminar, James? Was that maybe you and Beyond Marketing? And to list your core values, and ours has always been, and it's listed on our website: customer education, personalized service, guaranteed satisfaction, best after sales service, and safety first, second, and third. Those are our core values, and I think we've maintained that through all these years, and and I think it's what helped build the business to where it's at now. And yeah, man, we're just doing.
Sonic, I'm going to say this on your behalf as your friend. In closing that little conversation about the ranch, is that community is at a loss without you being there, because I know that any community that you're in, you make it better. So,
Thanks, buddy.
I feel like That was a very diplomatic way of how you've expressed yourself, knowing that I think that most that know you and are observing the situation feels like you got the raw end of a deal there.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
So
I'm still waiting. One thing I said, I've been saying to people is, right, everybody has their reputations, right? I'm still waiting to hear our bad reputation of what we did wrong or whatever, in this situation. And it seems like no one can find that, you know what I mean? And that's the most important thing to me and Donna is our reputation, because we want to conduct ourselves to the best that we can. But anyway, yeah.
I can confirm the reputation is intact, because as small of an industry that we're in, man, word travels like wildfire, maybe more now than ever, as witnessed by the daily occurrences of the U.S. Fun Jumper page on Facebook, and all that. So, yeah, man, I in pivoting from there, as you sort of recenter, as you are looking for your new normal, what makes you happy these days?
Something new that I've been doing a couple years ago for my 50th in 2020, I bought my first midlife crisis car. My wife bought me my first midlife crisis car. I wish
as you look up at your wife.
And so it's a 70 Mach 1. My very first car was a 71 Mach 1. And then honestly, just recently, again for my recent birthday, I got a 2022 Mach 1. And I just absolutely love driving them. But going to these car cruises, like, on Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights, where, there's from a couple dozen to a couple hundred people, same like-minded of loving cars enthusiasts, and just cruising and popping open the hoods and checking out other cars. And I've been having a lot of fun actually doing that recently, which is just something different and something fun. And so that's what I've been doing a little bit recently. But the most recent thing I've been doing that is extremely fun is running for USPA National Director.
Which was going to be my next question. Why do you want to do that? What's the deal?
Oh, man. I've always through the years have thought about doing it. And I think with running the pro shop, it was just, that extra task that would add to the pile. And if I don't think I could have effectively done that position because of the time I could devote to it. But then some opportunities came up in the past year, and now being off the drop zone, having more time. One thing, again, there's pros and cons to everything. One of the pros to us moving off the drop zone is that we changed our hours. We're working less. We're going home earlier. It's like in the past 2 years during the week, closing at 4, and I come home and I'm like, man, I got like 3-4 hours I can mow the lawn and I could do stuff, opposed to being at the drop zone until sunset. If the planes were flying and people were jumping, now with all this extra time on my hand to be able to, and again, I haven't been doing the team and competing for the last couple of years, and even last year being the U.S. team manager for the formation skydiving teams and going to the world meet and just sort of being in that arena a little bit. It's one of those that's like, I think I can help make a difference to our community of people and bring them the best experiences, that they can, and to improve the system. And I have the time and the passion. There's always something that really triggers something. Like for me, and the whole love was the Nationals, 96 Nationals. So for this, we had an incident last year with a really good friend of ours. Calvin was in a almost canopy collision. Calvin Falk, he avoided another jumper that was trying to assassinate him, was really what it came down to. And the process, and again, I was an STA, the process of the disciplinary action wasn't very clear to me. And what happened, he got suspended, but then it was like, well, then what happens? And and all of a sudden I became really inquisitive on this specific. And when Shauna Finley was leaving the area and the slot was opening up, I was like, man, I want to. And then literally target this, the disciplinary actions. And, because I went and read the Sims, and it's like, you read stuff and then you're like, wait a second, let me read that again. And then read it again. What does that mean? And like, how come there's no defined layout of what to do? So it was great that I applied for the Eastern Regional and went to the, BOD meetings in Reno to really, and I had sat in on some via Zoom in the previous years, and to hear some things like competition committees and stuff, and S&T, safety and training committees, and just hearing some stuff. But to be there this past year was really eye-opening, again, for the community, and again, for everybody listening. The board of directors, the 14 regional, 8 national, 22 people that voluntarily do their jobs for this community, that create and, educate and, all the things within our sport, these people do. And I was like, man, I really want to do that. And then, again, I was already applied for Eastern, but then when Al King and decided he was retiring, and he served on and off for, I think, so many years. Everybody knows Al, and we thank him for his great service to our membership. It was like, man, I want to do national, just to, really, again, help the community and bring my ideas of things that I will be promoting over the next month, because we got to the 30th of June for people to vote. And I encourage everybody to vote. And even if you're not voting for me, vote. It's like anything, just vote, have a say in what happens within our community. And there's 10 candidates, including myself. And, I hope I get elected so I can be effective, bringing, the things that we need to our sport and making them better.
Let's close on this thought. Impart with us some wisdom, Sonic. Any newer jumpers listening to this podcast? What advice you have for them?
Oh, man. Man, know your equipment. Know your equipment. Even when you're beginning, just the brands, the names, the sizes, be familiar with your equipment, and safety's everything. Nothing trumps safety. You know what I mean? Slow and easy. Listen to the elders that have been doing it a long time. Nothing too specific other than just don't skip steps. You want to do something faster, do it faster. Don't skip steps. No shortcuts. There are no shortcuts in this sport when it comes to the equipment, or when it comes to the skydiving or getting to be really good. There are no shortcuts. Take your time, do things right.
Sonic, you've been so generous with your time. I've thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. Thank you so much, my friend.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And I look forward to the more podcasts. I love these things, and getting to know some people beyond what you just sort of hear about them. And I hope I've given an insight to the listeners, a little bit more about myself. I still want to be known as that fun-loving guy, and that people can call anytime. And most importantly, bye, baby, bye at the pro shop.
Bye, baby, bye. Love it. Thank you, brother.
I appreciate you. Thank you, James.
Hey, sir, are you a baser? Would you like to jump a bridge in a plane with the same container? Well, check the action, the baser is here. And with the Base X, you can get some fresh new gear. A first of its kind, in case you ain't heard. TSO, you can base out of a plane with the belly reserved. I'ma give it to you straight, no chaser. Mine to see the sky so high, I call mine a free baser. The double pin free flap keeps everything tight. Attached directly to the bottom.
Thanks so much for listening to the 20-Minute Call podcast. Please do follow us on your podcast app so you always have the latest episode downloaded, and leave a review if you really enjoyed the episode. If you want to contact the team, our email address is info@beyondmarketing.xyz. This episode was edited and engineered by Garnet Znydrick of the YouTube channel Blue Skies, Fun Days. Thanks for listening, and join us in 2 weeks for our next episode.